It's Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. My name is Roy DeBerry. We're in the offices of North Mississippi Rural Legal Services. In the room with us this afternoon, Attorney Ben Cole, Attorney Jenny Kilgore, Ms. Morgan Kudarini, Caleb Paul, Justin Gary, Dylan McKellar, and Brian Parrish. We're also going to be talking to Attorney Ruby White this afternoon. Ms. White, would you start by just telling us where you're from, and if you want to talk about your birth, you can do that as well, but essentially we want to know who is Ruby White?
Who is Ruby White? Okay, well, I was born and raised in Yalobusha County, Oakland, right down the road. I grew up on a farm owned by my grandfather, and I spent all my formative years there in Yalobusha County on that farm. It was a working farm, so we raised cotton, cows, corn, crops like that.
Do you know how long the land had been in your family? You said that you was owned by your grandfather. What your great-grandfather has owned the land as well? Do you know how he came about the land?
Yes, it was family land. The land had been in the family at least 2 generations prior to that, and it continues to be there. It was a lot of land. My grandfather was a very smart individual. He was able to acquire a great bit of land.
And you said it's a working farm, so what kind of farming took place?
We raised cotton, we raised corn. There were row crops. We had gardens. We had cows. So the basic staple for this area, hill country, the cotton was a cash crop. The corn was a cash crop. The cows were partial cash crop, but basically it was for for food and milk, meat, milk. Same thing with the hogs and the chickens.
So in terms of your sibling, who worked the farm, I would assume that you were engaged in the farm work as well. How many siblings did you have, and how was it broken out in terms of chores?
Well, everybody did everything. There was 11 of us. We had 6 boys and 5 girls. Now, in terms of the housework, everybody did the housework. In terms of the farm work, we all would chop cotton and pick cotton, but the guys would run the tractors or use the mules, whichever stage we were at. So that was primarily the guys. We may have learned to drive the tractor, but we weren't really responsible for plowing the fields and stuff like that.
It talked about equality. You mentioned that everybody did housework, so that means that your brothers did housework as well as the girls?
There was a lot to do, so everybody did it.
Was that unusual? Did they complain about the fact that the boys were required to do housework at that time?
No, because everybody we knew pretty much operated the same way. There were things that had to be done, and everybody was expected to pitch in and get it done.
Could you say something about your parents' education level? Your mother, your father, your grandparents? Did they attend school or college or high school?
I'm not aware of my grandparents' educational level. My mother and my father completed what was the standard level at that time, which was the 8th grade. As a matter of fact, they attended the church. The children went to school at the church, which was located in the community, and so they both completed 8th grade. So they were able to read and to understand.
And the school, I would assume, was separate. There was school for black and school for whites.
The school was separate. The schools were in basically the black kids went to school at the black churches. So there are black churches in different neighborhoods, and the children from that neighborhood went to the school located in their neighborhood.
Okay, now when you came along, say something about the school system when you came along. Where did you go to elementary school, high school?
Okay, when I went to school, I went to what was called Walker High in Oakland. At that point, the schools were separate. The black kids went to Walker High, the white kids went to Oakland, Oakland Consolidated School. And it remained that way until my last year of high school. The year before I completed high school, they gave kids the option. You can go to the white school if you want to. I think 3 kids went. Then my last year, that's when it was mandatory.
Was that system called freedom of choice?
Yes, and the year before they did the mandatory integration, you were given a choice as to which school you wanted to go to.
Okay, so after high school, you enrolled in what college?
Okay, after high school, I went to Northwest. It was called Northwest Junior College at the time. So I did 2 years there. Then I transferred to Delta State University in Cleveland. So I graduated from Delta State with a degree in criminal justice and psychology.
Was there any military stint during that early period, or that came later?
No, that was after I had graduated law school.
Okay. Now, so you after Delta State, you came to Ole Miss?
After Delta State, I came to the University of Mississippi School of Law, and so I did the standard 3 years. As a matter of fact, that's where I came in contact with North Mississippi Legal Services when I was a student in law school there, because I interned with some of the guys.
And tell us what that internship was like. What did you gain from it, and how did it put you on your career path?
Okay, now that internship was a real work situation. It wasn't busy work because one of the cases, let me sort of put this in context. At that point, legal services did all type cases, including criminal cases. And so one of the cases they had me working on was an appeal of a criminal case. The young man had been given the death penalty. So we were appealing Oregon ineffective assistance of counsel, and that's what we were working on. And I think the manner and the approach that the lawyers that I work with gave me a greater appreciation as to the purpose and what and the mission of North Mississippi Legal Services. It gave me a better understanding of what the system was all about.
Was that unusual to be kind of baptized in deep water so early? In fact, you were an intern, you were still in college, and yet given such responsibility. How did you receive that?
I don't think it was unusual. Everybody, there was a group of us. There was a number of us, and we were all similarly situated and similarly assigned. So we were all doing things that mattered. It was not busy work. It was not make me a copy of this or make me some coffee. These were serious matters.
You know, a lot of times when people think about the farm, they usually end up being farmers, you know, as a career. And for some reason, you ended up as you mentioned, the community college, and then the Delta State, and then Ole Miss. So what person or persons in your family influenced you, the decision to pursue higher education and ultimately a law degree?
Well, all of my family were very high on the necessity of education. It was preached by my grandparents. I told you I went to a school in Oakland, the black school, Walker High. My grandfather was instrumental and helping establish that school. Let me tell you a story about that.
Okay.
Now, the way this is supposed to work, the county and the state is supposed to provide a school, but you had the black, you had the people from the black community around raising money to establish a school, which should never happen. They ended up buying land, and the school was constructed on it. And my grandfather my grandfather on my mother's side was an essential part of that. But my whole family emphasized the importance of education, and so it was sort of understood that if we had an opportunity to further our education, that we would do that.
You know, Constance Harvey Slaughter oftentimes says she was the first female law student at Ole Miss, and Reuben Anderson, I believe, was one of the earlier black male of color. So what year did you enter Ole Miss Law School, and what was it like? What was the climate at the time, and who was the dean? And just talk a little bit about that experience.
I entered in 1977. I don't know, the black students were like in a survivorship mode. I don't know what the climate was because a lot of this stuff was above our head. We were basically surviving, and so we understood we had to work twice as hard to get the same distance. So it was a lot of work involved in it.
Were you aware of the number of students of color in your class? Do you have any sense of that number, what that number looked like in 77? Female or male?
I did. I remember in my particular starting class, I think there were 4 or 5 of us females and 5 or 6 males. A couple of those were people who had started the previous year and had came back. So I guess they had academic problems, so they restarted the year. But there were no more than 10 to 12 of us in that class, starting in that class, and all of us didn't finish. That graduated with us, I remember 4 of us that graduated on time 3 years later.
Looking back on the experience, do you feel that had there been more support, and I know this is speculative on your part, had there been more support, do you think the other students who started with you would have survived as well? Or would you say that there's no way to know that? I was going to ask you about the support system they had in place for those incoming law students. What kind of support systems did you have?
You can't predict what would have happened, and we did have some support, and I am forever grateful for Professor Jane Minor. Professor Minor was the first black lawyer I ever saw. Leonard was the second one. So, and Professor Minor was there available. But there were also other professors there who extended courtesies or showed concern and interest in you being able to do well there. And I'm also grateful for those.
Okay, you mentioned that you had already interned for North Mississippi while you were a student at Delta State, I believe. So when did you actually start in a professional way with North Mississippi? You came as an attorney, I would assume, or how did you come initially?
The week after I graduated, I went to work in the Holly Spring office as a staff attorney. Because I did an internship, so I was in the Delta. So when I came back for graduation, immediately, and I had already been hired, so I wanted to make sure I didn't lose my job, so I went to work the Monday after I graduated.
That was in Holly Springs?
It was in Holly Springs.
And how long did you stay in Holly Springs? And tell us a little bit about the experience in Holly Springs and kind of cases you were involved in.
I stayed in Holly Springs 2 years, and we had just a variety of civil cases. We had the standard family law, adoptions, custody. In addition, we had parental rights type cases. We had Social Security cases. We had unemployment cases. I did a breach of contract case against the person who was at that point the superintendent of the school system there. 'Cause he was a house builder. He built a house, and there were liquidated damages provided for in the contract, and he didn't meet the terms of the contract. And I didn't know no better, so I sued.
And so after 2 years in Holly Springs, what was your next step?
After that, I had an obligation in the military because I had a commission, so I went on active duty with the JAG Corps from Holly Springs.
Tell us about that experience as JAG Corps. Does that mean you were an attorney in the military? What branch of the military? Is it Army?
No, I was in the Navy.
Okay.
The military is like self-sufficient, so everything they need, they grow it in-house. So they had their own lawyers, and so we went through training up in Newport, Rhode Island, and then we were sent to different bases. And so you would get to do trial, you'd get to do defense, get to do claims, you'd get to do some administration. So you did just a variety of things. Sometimes you had training bases, and some of the younger kids would get in trouble, so we would prosecute them or you would defend them. And that was when they were very high on doing drug tests, so we got a lot of that sort of things going on.
So in terms of active duty, were you required to do anything else that all the regular soldiers did, or were you all given special treatment?
No, you were not given any special treatment. You were expected to meet the same physical standards. You had to do PT. You had to make sure your body mass was. They wanted you to look good in your uniform. But you had the same standards. It's just that your specialty was illegal, whereas someone else's specialty would have been medical, because the medical peoples and the legal peoples and the supply peoples, they all had to meet the same standards.
You mentioned Rhode Island, and of course you grew up in a place way down here in Mississippi, down here in Yalobusha County, and you end up in the Northeast. What was that transition like for you at that point, moving from the deep South to the far Northeast? In terms of how you were received there. I know you were with the military, but you had a chance to go out into the city and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you do have to bear in mind that a lot of those towns where you have military training facilities or military bases, the people are very accepting of the military personnel. They give you the utmost respect. They don't see color; they see the uniform, and so. You were accorded certain. You were accorded the same recognition that anyone else was.
That's an interesting point you raised there. You said there you would consider the military with just a uniform. Well, if you look at a place like Meridian or a place like Columbus or a place like Biloxi, they had bases as well. Do you think you would have been at that time accorded the same treatment in that uniform had you been there? Just speculating.
Well, to an extent, because I did go to Meridian for a while. The base in Meridian is way out of town, and so it's a little different. So you're sort of isolated out there. It was different. You were accorded some, but it was different from Newport. Newport, it's like. It's incorporated more into the community than Meridian, where you're out. I was in Millerton, we're not in Memphis. We're in Milton. We're out, so it's different.
So what influenced your choice to come to work? I know you did the internship. Was there anything though that specifically influenced your choice to work specifically when you had other choices? You could have gone other places, could have gone into corporate America. What influenced your choice? And I know you're from Mississippi and you grew up in a small town, but again, what influenced your choice, if you can recall, to work specifically with North Mississippi Rural Legal Services?
Even though I worked with North Mississippi Rural when I was in law school, I had previous connection with North Mississippi Rural. North Mississippi Rural filed a case to desegregate. For my last year, North Mississippi Rural Legal Services handled that case. My parents may be listed as one of the plaintiffs in that lawsuit. So I was familiar with North Mississippi Rural Legal Services. It also had a little bit to do with how I ended up in the legal profession. It had to do with things I heard and things I saw. I told you my grandfather was I guess by that standard, he was a man of substance. Not that we are, but he was. But he would always say that old lawyer did this, or that old lawyer did that. In addition, we had neighbors who were buying stuff, and they were buying land, but it wasn't financed to a bank. It would be financed to somebody who owned a store, and they would always say, "They are never gonna pay for that. They are never gonna pay for that. They are never gonna pay for that," and they never did. I think, and he has some interesting things to say about lawyers, and so that what I saw when I did the internship with the guys at North was different from sort of the picture of a lawyer. And like I said, those guys were serious, and they were, not only were they serious about it, but they were excited about it. And so I think that rubbed off on me.
So that access to justice thing, having seen, making those people make those statements, what they were saying is they would never pay for it because they're going to be basically cheated and not given access to justice. So was that theme, were you thinking about that theme at the time of going into law school, becoming a lawyer, so you could sort of change that?
I don't know if I was thinking about it in that context, but I think because I knew it and I knew it to be true. You know, a lot of things people say are not true, but I knew that to be true because when those folks died, that man got that property. He sold to somebody else. And that was heartbreaking. Quite a know those folks struggle. And I've seen other people do the same, had the same struggle. Because in the community where I live, a lot of the folks, they own their own property. They wasn't sharecropping. They were attempting to buy, but it was a struggle, and I saw that. So I think that sense of right and wrong, and I'm speaking right or wrong in a moral sense here. I think that sort of influenced the things I do.
I think you mentioned this perhaps, but again, I just want to highlight this again. Given your experience of working with the legal services and being an advocate and being in charge of lawyers, going back over time, whether it was in Holly Springs or Grenada, Greenville, Oxford, what are the most important things you worked on? And you talked about discrimination, obviously, at North Mississippi. I mean, it may be a series of things, but can you recall any particular case in your mind that's the most important, or be somewhere at the top?
I don't know how to answer that because, to me, they're all important. Okay, they're important to that person, and what you're doing. That's that person's case. So the importance of it to them is what matters. I'll give you for instance now. For instance, we may think guardianship is just a simple little guardianship, but there was an instance where I did a guardianship for a grandmother, and on the surface, but this was a grandmother. This was a woman whose daughter died in the hospital, had a baby. The hospital wouldn't give her the baby. Okay, because the so for somebody else that may look like that's a little guardianship. No, that was more important. It was important that this family bring this child back to the family so it could be around its blood. And so it was a simple matter, but the family didn't know what to do. But I had to train them, and because I did have to train, I knew what to do to bring the baby home. I'm happy to say that baby grew up, and that baby's now a teacher. And from time to time, the family will say, "Your baby did this. It's not my baby, but that's how the baby." So and we did unemployment cases. We did. I co-counsel on the case that had to do with when the legislature first passed the thing requiring everybody to have a garbage can. We did a case that said, well, you should, if you don't, if the garbage can tag and tying it to your tag. And so we challenged it, said, wait a minute, there are no procedures in place where there are some people who may not need a garbage can, but you're going to put one out there, and then you're going to prevent them from getting tagged, and so they can't drive that vehicle. So we challenged that case. How do you weigh them? Because to me, bringing that child home to its family is as important as the fact that when somebody wants to go buy a tag, now there are certain procedures in place if they want to challenge it. So I'm not sure.
That's I must tell you, that's an interesting perspective. This notion of always thinking about the client, always thinking about the interests of the client. Again, I'm going to ask you to speculate here. Given your long experience in the law, and given your long experience being an advocate and over lawyers, again, I'm going to ask you to speculate. Is that common? Is that the common practice? Maybe it's at North Mississippi for lawyers or attorneys to always put the primary interest of the client first, and when you talk about important, what's important for them as opposed to what's important for the lawyer?
I hope so, and I think in a lot of instances, I've witnessed where people's of, at least on my assessment, is that they were doing, they weren't taking the easy out. So I sincerely hope so.
How do you think, and what do you think are some of the important cases or ways that North Mississippi Legal Services has impacted the community, whether it's here in Oxford, Hollis Springs, Greenville, Greenwood, you name it? What do you think has been the most important way or ways this organization over the years, over 50 years, has impacted the community?
I think the program has, touched just about every facet of life. You start with education, the schools. You start with employment, challenging employment discrimination. You're talking about housing. So I think if you look at just different facets of everyday life, then you'll see North Mississippi Legal Services footprint.
Which leads me into another question, which is, again, going to be speculative, but had legal services not existed, we know we still have the private attorneys out there, had legal services not existed, how would North Mississippi be different in your judgment?
That's I've I don't know.
You got long experience. You can, if you just speculate on that, what would it look like had you not been here? Given the trajectory of segregation, discrimination, all the cases you just talked about.
I think, well, when it comes to change, there's orderly change and there's disorderly change. Okay. I think the legal system provides a matter of orderly change. A lot of folks, my generation, a little bit younger, a little bit older, they 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 are more demanding of their rights. So I think North Mississippi would have changed simply because the people would have demanded it. But in terms of how, so I don't know whether that would have made it quicker or slower, but I don't think people would have put up with things just forever and a day because there was not a legal solution. Because not everybody not everybody thinks the court is the solution. Some people actually believe in self-help.
Yes, Dr. King and others that were engaged in the civil rights movement, particularly the protest movement, regardless that people would protest and would engage, but oftentimes when they ended up in jail or they ended up in parchment or they ended up in prison, you need the legal system to step in.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean there always has to be a co-relationship between the people who protest and the people at North Mississippi Legal Services to provide them with some kind of legal remedy?
I think that there need to be changes. There are different elements to change, and the legal system is just one part of it.
Okay. Taking the experience here at North Mississippi, and you mentioned Lewis Myers, and you mentioned Minor who taught you in law school. So who have been some of the most important people to have influenced your work while at North Mississippi?
Well, I was fortunate to have end up with good managers. As I mentioned, when I was in law school, we had Leonard. And then when I went to Holly Spring, I had Ed Long. When I went to Greenville, I had Gloria Green. When I went to Grenada, I had Leon Johnson, and I had Lawrence Young. So I've always had the advantage of having people who were twice as smart as I was, and so I could learn a lot from them. And so, and not only were they smart, they had energy and they were serious about what they were doing.
Because of your modesty, that's probably mean why you're so smart yourself. The issue with being, I know you are Director of Advocacy and Chief of Lawyers. Could you explain to me how that position works at North Mississippi? The fact that you have got all the experience and you're now over the lawyers here, how does that work and how has that worked for you?
Well, it allows you to do a couple of things. One is we still get young lawyers, and hopefully you can instill in them that fire and that energy for the legal profession, that they subscribe to the theory that the legal profession is a profession of service. Okay. And so if it's a profession of service, then the clients are going to be paramount. So that's one of the good things. And also, you get the benefit of bouncing ideas and theories off them because we are fortunate to have some very sharp individuals who have ideas and who want to do things. And so I think I benefit as much as they do because I do have a good group of people.
I don't know the percentage of people actually entering law school right now, particularly at Ole Miss, and how many actually graduate and how many go on to pass the bar. Do you have a sense of how students are doing with respect to the bar exam currently at the university? The pass rate, is it better, worse than? Have no idea.
I don't know. No.
Okay. Given all your experience that you've had, both in terms of the military, your own family members, Delta State, community college, University Law School, what additional experiences would you like to share with the future audience out there, the people that's going to be looking at you and reading about you years down the road, and also looking and receiving your video? What would you like to share? Words of wisdom, gems of wisdom that you would like to leave?
Well, there's a Peloton commercial that said there's a million ways to get it. So there's a million ways to get it, which means you got to strive. You have to strive. And so I would encourage someone that's viewing this to strive, whatever the endeavor is, to be willing to strive, and not only to strive for themselves, but for the better, for the community, for their family, for others. And I think if you do that, then you, at the end of the day, you'll be very happy.
Finally, can you be a great advocacy without passion? What I'm saying is, can you be, structurally sound and got the academics and got the credentials, but lack the passion? How effective could you be?
I think if you have the credentials, but not the heart and the passion, you're not going to be able to live up to your full potential. You're not going to, because there are going to be times when it's difficult and you're going to need to you're going to need something to draw on. And if you can draw on your passion, your belief in what you're doing, then it will get you over the hump.
I missed one thing, and I wanted it to be closed, but I want to close on this. So, how many directors have you worked on, and can you name all of them?
I can. I've only worked on the 3. I worked on a Leonard, I worked on an Ava, and I worked on a Miss Cole.
I won't ask you to rate them.
Oh, they're all number 1.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.